Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you about this laptop computer that I have. It's having a problem. As you can see, it seems to be working pretty normally here. But the problem is when you open or close the lid occasionally, the screen will flicker on and off. And there it's off, flickering on and off. I've determined that it's the actual cable in the hinge assembly that's going on and off, or this has a bad connection. And so I'm going to go ahead and replace that today. I've already went ahead and ordered a new cable, and I got that on eBay. It was about $13 including shipping, so it was a pretty good deal. Based on the model number and everything, I did searches and found the correct cable that it needed. Seems to be a fairly common problem with laptops because of the lid opening and closing so often. So I wanted to talk to you about replacing the cable in your laptop, which is probably very similar to my laptop. The cable goes through the hinges, one or the other. I'm not sure which one on this one, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back off of the LCD monitor panel, and that's done by removing all of these little rubber stoppers in the corners, which you'll find screws under, as well as we'll have to get into the main part of the machine, so it's going to include any other little rubber stoppers that there are, which most of them will house screws underneath. On this particular machine there's a little secret hidden panel, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and shut the computer down. And on this one there's a little secret hidden panel. You have to just pry it up, and there are some screws hiding underneath it here that need to be removed before you can get the keyboard out. So I do recommend backing up your data before you start this endeavor. Back up your data, completely shut down your system, remove the battery, remove anything else. I have the little USB for the mouse, and then go ahead and start just removing the screws from the system. Alright, so I've got the screws out, and I've taken the started to take the frame off, and it's just a matter of there's little snaps. You just have to kind of walk around the LCD frame and unsnap it. But as you can see, if you just continue going on all the way around it, you will eventually get it loose. So there I've got the whole lid of the computer completely loose. I've disconnected the connector from the inverter board that supplies the high voltage to the fluorescent backlights. I've looked, and it does appear that I did get the correct cable, because it does have the one connector for the inverter board down here, as well as the LVDS cable. This right in here appears to be where the problem lies, because if you look closely, it bends right here and goes around the hinge. You can see where the cable bends, so every time you open and close the lid, it's putting pressure on that cable. So next I'm going to go ahead and disassemble the computer keyboard by removing the hidden screws and then taking all the screws out of the bottom, and this lid will lift up off of there. Actually, the keyboard will come out first, so let me go ahead and take those screws out and show you where we are. Okay, so I've taken those two screws out of the keyboard. It's held in place with some double stick tape. You can simply just lift it up. There are a couple connectors that you can release. This one happens to have a backlit keyboard, so there's a power connector for the LEDs. And just a gentle lift will allow you to completely unplug the keyboard. Now you've got access to the RAM. I do recommend some air in the cooling fan to blow the dust out of it. And you'll find some more screws down here that you must remove to gain access to the rest of the cable. So I'll go ahead and take those out now. Okay, so I've got all the screws removed from the bottom of the laptop, and so I've unsnapped the snaps, and it's just a matter of going around and just pulling the whole top plate completely loose. Watch out for ribbon cables. You can see that you can access them through the holes here, so you can disconnect. It goes to the touchpad, the keyboard, things like that. There's a couple connectors on the inside here. I'll go ahead and disconnect. So the lid is completely loose and free at that point. So if there's any maintenance you need to do on anything, now is definitely the time to take care of that. And now we can actually see the LVDS cable. It's quite mangled over here in the corner. It's made a lot of turns, but it's just tucked right through here and it plugs in right there. Okay, so I've go ahead and just disconnect the LVDS cable. It just unplugs straight out. It's got lots of pins. Be very particular about the key on the end of it. You'll notice it has a slot on one end and like a slot on the opposite end. It can only go in one direction. It's a thin little piece of tape here. I'm just going to fold that back and reuse it. And at this point we can just kind of maneuver this old cable back out of the way. We'll go ahead and take the new LVDS cable. It'll plug right into the slot, and we'll just route it over here in the exact same way the old one came out. Try to get it underneath there. They really designed these computers. The specs on them is just incredible how much or how little clearance there is for some parts to fit. So it's back in its little slot as good as I can get it until we actually put the latch on it. So there we go. I've cleaned out the fan, so now reassembly is just the opposite of disassembly. Watch all the connectors that you previously unplugged. On these kinds of connectors, I don't know if you can see it on the computer or not, or on the video. These little connectors, when you lift up on them, you can unplug the cables virtually effortlessly. Once you put the new cable in there, press it down, it locks it into place. So you'll see this connector is the same way here. This one's the same way right here. Let me zoom out a little bit wider. Like I said, if you want to upgrade the RAM, now is the perfect time to do it. On this model, it's underneath the keyboard. Let me see if there's anything else. Here's the main microprocessor right here. It's got a 0 insertion force socket, so you can remove this heatsink from it. Like I said, make sure you blow some air through here to clean out that little fan. A lot of times you have a noisy fan. Now is the time to replace it if you wanted to, since you've got your laptop already torn apart. Hard drive is under here. It's a matter of just lifting up on this tab, removing the screws and lifting up, and it comes right out of there. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and we'll put the top back on it, and I'll give you results once I've got it mostly reassembled. Okay, so here's the back side of the LCD monitor. We're going to talk about replacing the LVDS cable into the LCD monitor itself right here. It's a very small connector. This one's actually got a piece of tape. As you can see, the new one has a piece of tape that the adhesive has not been removed from it yet. So to remove it, is simply just pull the piece of tape back and then gently side to side just pull the cable out of there. Once that's done, it's held down with adhesive. Let me zoom out a little bit wider here so you can see what I'm talking about down here. Once that's out, it's just there's another piece of adhesive, very strong adhesive right here, as well as this piece of plastic tape. Just peel it back. The old cable is completely free now. Go ahead and route the new one up through the hinge, bend it over at a 90-degree angle. Use the existing piece of tape to attach it. Okay, now to attach the LVDS cable, it's just a matter of you peel back the adhesive, you line it up with the connector, which is sometimes easier said than done. And if you pull the tape and push at the same time, hopefully my hand's not in the way there, you can attach it in there, peel back the protector from the adhesive and glue it back down here. Back down here, another piece of adhesive so we can attach it at the same place. So this is the really strong adhesive, and this makes sure that the LVDS cable is kept absolutely flat against the back of the monitor. So once it's attached, we can plug in the connector to the ballast. Remount the ballast circuit board down here. and then we can just begin the reassembly process on the LCD monitor. So once I get that reassembled, we'll go ahead and fire it up and we'll give it a test. Okay, so I've got the screen back in now. I just put the battery on it. I don't have all the screws in it yet. I just want to give it a test. And so far so good. The power light lit up. The monitor did light up, so that's a good sign. I got all the connectors connected in the right places. Once the screen actually comes back on, I'll go ahead and move it up and down. It's loading Windows right now. I'll move it around and see how it goes. Oops, I missed one tab on the keyboard, so while it's booting up, I'm going to loosen this screw. Put that tab underneath right there. I don't know if you can catch that on the video or not. So far so good. Everything's up and running just fine. Let me go ahead and move the screen while it's running. Perfect, no flicker. Can move it all the way open, all the way closed with no problem at all. So all that's left is to go ahead and reattach the screen frame. Make sure that you don't lose this little magnet that's on the inside of the screen frame. There's a sensor on the other side of the computer, and that's what tells it when you've closed it. There's a read switch in there, and if you have it set to hibernate or to sleep when you shut the lid, then when you lay that down there, that's what it'll do. I have this one set to not do anything. I just want it to leave the monitor on. It actually shuts the monitor off, but I want the computer to stay up and running. So there we go. I've changed the LVDS cable. Let me put the screws back in it, and we'll do one final video segment. Okay, so I've got the monitor all back together. I've got the 4 screws in the corners. I put the little rubber adhesive tabs on there. I've snapped it all the way around. And so the next step, I've done the test, so I can go ahead and pop the battery back out. Put in all the rest of the missing screws. I did make a little cheat sheet because there is one short screw. All the rest of these screws, and I piled them up into one pile so you won't lose them there. So it's always a good idea to try to group them in different areas. So I'll go ahead and I'll put the rest of the screws in. All these little silver screws go underneath in the battery compartment. There's 8 of them that go in there, plus the rest of the screws. I'll put the rest of the little rubber tabs on it to make it look as good as new. And then I just got to snap the one piece back into the keyboard that hides those screws, plug the little USB mouse receiver into it, and we're ready to go. Good as new. Alright, got everything back reassembled. Got all the screws back in it. Everything's nice and tight now. All the little rubber covers are back over all the little screw holes, so it looks like a nice original laptop. And I think we're back in business. Everything's working good. Make sure that, yeah, the mouse is still moving around there, no problem. And I think we've got another unit out of the junk pile. I appreciate all your support, your subscriptions, and keep watching for more videos. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.